ये वो एक सेशन था जिसमें वो अजीब सी वो थी, ड्राइंग्स थी जो एनिमल्स को रिप्रेजेंट कर रही थी।
हाँ हाँ, that's the best part about these, I think. Nope.
हैरी पॉटर।
हैरी पॉटर का लगा, हाँ।
हाँ, उसका स्वेटर हैरी का।
रॉन
रॉन
है।
है, रॉन है मेरा ख्याल से।
right?
क्योंकि वो स्क्रीन बेस्ड है.
कौन? क्योंकि वो ज्यादा होते हैं.
क्योंकि उसकी शेप डिफरेंट होती है, तो उसका सेंटर ऑफ ग्रेविटी डिफरेंट है. बाकी सारे पीसेस तो दे लाइक वेरी सिमेट्रिकल. द नाइट इज नॉट सिमेट्रिकल.
हम्म.
Hello,
मुझे
my
ज्यादा
name is
scared
Irving
है.
Finkel. I work in the British Museum. Hello, my name is Irving Finkel. I work in the British Museum. I'm a curator, and welcome to my corner. So today we're going to talk about the Lewis chessmen. The Lewis chessmen are not in my department, which is called the Middle East. They're in a totally different department, which I don't approve of, but I can't do anything about it. They've been carved in the middle of the 12th century out of walrus tusks by craftsmen who were really geniuses. But they imparted to those chess pieces a huge dollop of humanity and rather a lot of humour. So these chessmen probably were carved in north of England, in Norway, Scandinavia. We don't know where. There are different theories about it. Some group of them was buried on the shore of Lewis for reasons we don't really know, and lay there from the middle of the 12th century till about 1830. So those chess pieces are quite extraordinary. They were found in 1830 somewhere on the Isle of Lewis on a white silvery beach on the northern shore sometime in the 1830s. Nobody quite knows what really happened. There's a story about a nunnery, there's a story about a murder, there's all the usual stories, but the most reasonable one is that a cow was munching grass which was growing on the edge of the beach, and somehow with its foot or its nose dislodged something which slid apart, and there revealed in some kind of case were all these small ivory chess pieces who must have terrified the life out of the first person who saw them, because they probably thought they were devils. But wisdom prevailed, and somebody local scooped them up, or most of them, and they were taken to the mainland on the quiet, and they were sold to a collector here and a collector there, and the bulk of them ended up in the British Museum and the rest in the museum in Edinburgh. When you see them for the first time, something magical happens and they bewitch you. And of course, that's what happened to me. That's what happens to all curators in this museum. They come here as the children, they fall in love with certain things, and for me it was in the first place the Lewis chess pieces. I never managed to get them out of my system. I've always been crazy about them. So in the old days, when I was a young person, you could buy replicas of these chess pieces in the shop. It was an innovation. They were about £1, 12 shillings and sixpence, and they were made by craftsmen who did their utmost to reproduce the look of ancient ivory. So they were very impressive. And we were not a particularly affluent family, and we were brought up in such a way that we only had treats on a small number of occasions, like birthdays and things of this kind. So I acquired my set of replicas of the Lewis chess pieces, 32 pieces, on Christmas and birthdays over many, many years of work. In fact, when I got my PhD, I still was short 7 pawns, and my dad decided he would buy those as a small gesture. So I finally had a whole set to play with. When you have that chess set in front of you, you feel like a general with an army at your disposal, fighting to the death, but also tinged with a big dollop of humanity, as I said. So it's a marvellous matter that they've come to light, because thousands and thousands and thousands of people have seen these chess pieces. In fact, they're in the back of people's minds, and sometimes you see them on biscuit tins, sometimes you see them on calendars, and of course you will have seen them in that cursed horrible film, whose name I forget, about some kid with glasses who had nothing better to do one afternoon than to play a game of chess, and they used the replicas of the Lewis chess pieces which belonged to me. I mean, the thing was, the movie wasn't very interesting, but the chess piece part was very interesting indeed, because if you ever saw it, you will have seen how wicked this queen could be and how vulnerable this poor military knight could be in the face of her fury. So these are the actual ones, and I would quite like to be able to bring this alive for you by showing you that film, if I could remember what it was called, but as I can't, what we're going to do now is a kind of reenactment of it in the British Museum, so that it brings it back into your memory in case you've forgotten too.
Knight to e5.
Queen to e5.
That's totally barbaric.
That's wizard's chess. So you've packed?
I see you haven't.
Change of plan. My parents decided to go to Romania to visit my brother Charlie. He's studying dragons there.
Now, this is an interesting matter, I tell you for why. Because in that film, which will become nameless in this speech, it was necessary to have a chess set where children in the school could play a game. And the wardrobe mistress was sent to the British Museum to get a set of Lewis chess piece replicas, because she was a British Museum girl, because her father and her grandfather had been keepers in this museum back in time a long way. So she knew all about the Lewis chess pieces. Like me, she'd grown up admiring them. So she came here to buy a set of replicas, and lo and behold, there were none available in the shop, even for ready money. So she rang me up, knowing I had these replicas, and to cut a long story short, they borrowed my replicas for use in the film. Now, this isn't just a small matter, it's a matter of extremely significant archaeology, because when the chess pieces were first discovered, some of them were red. Most of them were white, but some were red. They'd been stained artificially in the workshop to distinguish the two sides on the chessboard, because as we have black and white pieces, so originally they were white and red. Well, it turns out nowadays that you cannot, for love nor money, tell which of those pieces was originally red, because all the colour has vanished, even on the inside of the pieces where you have the kind of net of structure which formed the marrow of the tusk, so to speak. Even in the interstices inside the core of the piece, there is no trace of red. So I'd asked the man who makes these marvellous replicas to make a replica set in red so we could see what they would really look like. So what actually happened was that all the children in the world saw the replicas of the Lewis chess pieces as they were originally red and white. And if they watched attentively, which I hope they did, they will have seen how unpleasant and vicious in nature the Red Queen could be when provoked. They are amazing things, and I think they really need to be appreciated for lots of reasons. Somehow or other, they captivate the passerby. It is true in museums that when people have been there a while, their legs get weary and they're actually thinking with longing of open fields and yoghurt. But sometimes things arrest their attention, and I've been many times hanging around of the case, by the case where the chess pieces are. I'm often hanging around there because I've always expected one of these days they will have a conversation that I can overhear. But leaving that aside, it is always a heartwarming thing to see jaded people who rather wish they were no longer in the British Museum at all, seeing these chess pieces and being electrified by them and stooping down and saying, look at that and look at that. And isn't that marvellous? And that is what they are. They are marvellous.
बंदा कितना मजे का बोलता है
हाँ,
It's
I
something
would love
about
to ये मुझे स्टोरी सुनाए रात को सोने से पहले।
हाँ मैं वही कह रहा something about his voice दिल ही नहीं कर रहा था कि वो भोंगिया मारी जा रहा है ठीक है
Yep.
तो फौरन सीजन ने तो फौरन तालियां बजा दी हैं कि बस मौका बड़ी खुश होती है जब आपके सेशन खत्म होते हैं ना पता नहीं क्यों कौन जबरदस्ती बिठाता है
आप ऐसा ही आप अपनी बातें मेरे कंधे पे रख के क्यों कर रहे हैं बंदूक?
मैं कर नहीं ना सकता डायरेक्ट डेंजर अब आप आपने कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना था मामा से पूछ लो अब आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा उसका बस उससे बर्दाश्त नहीं हो रहा था पूछो कर दिया ऑन वो वाला मामा पूछे ये वाला वियर्ड था
हाँ, मैं बस ये कहना चाह रही थी कि अब अगर मैं कभी ज़िंदगी में कोई महँगा चेस सेट ले रही हुई तो मुझे पता होगा कि मैंने कौन-सा पीस देखना है। नहीं, दैट वाज़
तो
गुड।
अभी हम लोग असल में मतलब इंटरेस्टिंगली हम लोग जो वो सेशन करवाते हैं या वर्कशॉप करवाते हैं तो उसमें चेस पीस बनाना आसान काम है तो फर्स्ट वाले उसमें वो करते हैं बट आप कोई भी पीस बना सकते हो क्योंकि सारे सिमेट्रिकल होते हैं बट आप घोड़ा नहीं बना सकते बिकॉज उसको मतलब उसको खुद मॉडल करना पड़ता है एक एक चीज को मॉडल करना पड़ता है तो इसलिए मुझे जो है वो इस चीज़ का अंदर क्योंकि जब हमने बनाया था तो यही हम लोग सोच रहे थे कि इसी का एक जो है वो हॉर्स वाला भी कर लेते हैं बट वो करना इज क्वाइट डिफिकल्ट और बाकी कोई भी पीस जो है वो क्योंकि ट्रेस हो जाते हैं बाकी सारे और उसके बाद आप सिमेट्रिकल हैं तो आप
वो मशीन
उसको
होती
वो
है जो
स्पिन कर सकते हो
हाँ।
हाँ वो स्पिन कर सकते हो ना वही आपको जो वीडियो याद है ना जो बनाई हुई है
हुँ।
हाँ जी चलो हो गया बस
हुँ। हुँ।
तो बाय द वे खुदा को तो मैं बताता रहता हूँ अभी चेस वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप चल रही है
वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप कहाँ पे?
सिंगापुर
आप नहीं गए?
नहीं नहीं चलो फिजा फिर मैं हमारे वाला लिंक ही ज्वाइन कर लेता हूँ ठीक है
ठीक है। ओके। थैंक यू बाबा जी। हाफ़िज़।
हम्म।
you.